Your 401k could be a ticking time bomb. One wrong move might quietly cost you tens of thousands of dollars in lost savings. In fact, I know someone who lost over $50,000 in unnecessary taxes due to a single 401k mistake. Now, you wouldn't knowingly throw away 50,000 of your hard-earned retirement money, right? Of course not. So stick around because today I'm going to expose 5 major 401k mistakes that millions of people make and how to avoid them before they drain your nest egg. So before we dive into the big mistakes, here's the big picture. Saving in your 401k and spending from it in retirement, well, they're two completely different games. Many folks assume that withdrawing money will work just like contributing did, but nothing could be further from the truth. Uncle Sam gave you a tax break when your money went into the 401k, but he'll demand his cut when it's time to come out. So without a plan, you could end up with surprise tax bills or penalties that wreck your retirement lifestyle. In fact, one Vanguard study found that people who manage their 401k strategically, like getting professional advice, increase their 10-year retirement wealth by about 30% on average. Now, that's real money left on the table if you ignore these issues. So, with that backdrop, let's get into it. So, here are the 5 mistakes on your 401k that could cost you dearly in retirement. So, off we go. So, the biggest mistake of all is leaving your 401k behind with a former employer after you retire or you change jobs. Now, this is extremely common. It's easy and it feels safe just to let it sit, but out of sight, out of mind can be costly. So, when your money stays in an old employer's 401k, you lose control and flexibility. Typically, 401k plans have limited investment choices compared to an IRA, and you're stuck with whatever menu your ex employer actually offers. Now, you might be missing out on better investment options or more appropriate choices that a rollover IRA could give you. Plus, you're likely paying higher fees than necessary. 401k plan fees can range from about 0.5% up to 2% or more of your balance, and you often have little control over those costs. So, why pay 1 to 2% in extra fees for fewer choices? Now, over time, those fees compound and they can shave literally tens of thousands off your retirement wealth. Another problem, if your old company merges or it changes plan providers or investment options or even goes out of business, well, your retirement money is along for the ride without your input. You've got zero say in those changes when your 401k is still with a former employer. And with separate accounts scattered in different places, well, it's harder to see your whole retirement picture. So you miss the opportunity to coordinate everything under one cohesive strategy. For example, aligning all your investments to work together or planning withdrawals in the most tax efficient way. Finally, leaving money in multiple old 401ks can turn into a logistical nightmare when it comes time to start required minimum distributions or RMDs. Now, by law, once you reach RMD age, and that's now 73 for most folks, you must withdraw a certain amount from your retirement funds every year. Now, if you've got several 401k accounts, you must calculate and withdraw the RMD from each plan separately, unlike IRAs, which allow you to aggregate RMDs. So, multiple accounts mean multiple deadlines and calculations, increasing the chance of an oversight. So, consolidating those old 401ks into a single IRA, well, that can simplify this immensely complicated task. The only real exception to this is don't leave it behind rule is if you retire early, say before the age of 59 and a half, and you might need to tap some of those funds. So the IRS rule of 55 allows you to withdraw from your 401k without the 10% early withdrawal penalty if you separate from your job in the year you turn 55 or later. Now, importantly, this works only if the money stays in that employer's 401k. If you roll it into an IRA, you generally lose that early withdrawal benefit. So if you're retiring super early and you need access to cash, you might purposely leave some funds in the 401k in order to use that rule of 55. Otherwise, for most people, rolling over old 401ks into an IRA or into your new employer's 401k, if that's an option, well, both are usually smarter. So it reduces fees, it expands your investment options, and it gives you more control over your money. So whatever you do, don't let inertia cost you. Take charge of those orphaned accounts. So on to mistake number 2, taking money out without a withdrawal strategy. So you spent decades saving in your 401k, and that's great. But how and when you withdraw that money, well, that can make or break your retirement finances. So mistake number 2 is withdrawing from your 401k haphazardly without having a strategy. So if you treat your 401k like an ATM without planning, well, you could trigger a tax avalanche that was totally avoidable. So here's the issue. 401k withdrawals are generally taxed as ordinary income. So if you take out too much in one year, you might push yourself into a higher tax bracket, meaning you pay a larger percentage in taxes on that last chunk of money. Now, this can also have ripple effects. For instance, a big withdrawal can increase the portion of your Social Security benefits that get taxed and even lead to higher Medicare premiums due to income based surcharges. So, in plain English, pulling too much too quickly from a tax deferred account can cost you literally thousands of extras in taxes and penalties that could have been avoided with timing. Now, on the flip side, some retirees make the opposite mistake, withdrawing too little or not at all until they're forced. They figure, I'll just let it sit and grow. But this can be a missed opportunity to take out money at lower tax rates. For example, if you retire at 62 and you have a modest income for a few years, well, you might be in a very low tax bracket. So that's an ideal time to withdraw some 401k funds or do a Roth conversion at low tax cost. If you wait and then you have to take large RMDs after 73, well, you might end up in a higher bracket later. So a smart withdrawal strategy will smooth out your income over the years, aiming to minimize taxes over your entire retirement rather than just this year or next year. So the key is planning. Ideally, before you even retire, map out a year by year withdrawal plan. Consider factors like what tax bracket will I be in each year? When should I start Social Security? Will large withdrawals bump me above Medicare premium thresholds? So, for many people, a sweet spot for withdrawals is the window after you retire, but before the RMDs actually kick in. Because in those years, you have no wage income, you possibly haven't started Social Security yet, and RMDs haven't even begun, meaning that you can strategically pull from your 401k at relatively low tax rates. Now, by drawing down some funds in that window, you can reduce the balance that will be subject to RMDs later and potentially save a bundle in taxes over time. Now, if this sounds very complex, sadly, it can be. So, this is where working with a financial planner or a tax advisor can really pay off. They can help you craft a withdrawal strategy that considers current versus future tax brackets, Social Security timing, and even Medicare surcharges. The bottom line, don't wing it when it comes to taking money out of your 401k. Have a plan so you're not giving Uncle Sam a tip that you really didn't need to. So, by the way, if you're finding this video helpful, I'll welcome you to the Financial Freedom Network, the channel that exposes the truth behind your money, your credit, and your future. So if you care about keeping more of your hard earned cash, boosting your credit score, and staying ahead of the financial curve, just smash that like button and subscribe right now. Trust me, every video we release could change the way that you live. Buckle up because this one's no exception. So, having said that, let's dive straight in. On to mistake number 3, ignoring required minimum distributions, those pesky RMDs. As mentioned, the IRS requires you to start taking minimum withdrawals from your 401k once you reach a certain age. Recent law changes push the RMD start age to 73 for people retiring now. That's good because it gives more time for your money to grow tax deferred. There's no doubt about it. But once you hit that age, you must withdraw a calculated amount each year, whether you need the money or not, or face a nasty penalty. Well, what kind of penalty? Well, it used to be a whopping 50% of the amount you should have taken out. Ouch. Luckily, but as of 2023, the penalty has been reduced, but it's still 25% of the shortfall, and it can drop to 10% if you correct the mistake promptly. Now, think about that. If your RMD for the year was 20,000 and you forgot to take it, well, you could owe a $5,000 penalty on top of the taxes due. That's basically the IRS saying to you, we really, really, really want you to take your RMD. And it's one of the harshest penalties in the tax code for individuals. So the mistake is failing to plan for RMDs or accidentally missing one. Now, many retirees forget that RMDs apply to 401ks and traditional IRAs. And it can get especially tricky if you've got multiple accounts. As we discussed earlier, if you've got 2 or 3 old 401ks, well, you have to calculate an RMD for each one separately. Also, inherited retirement accounts have their own RMD rules that depend on your relationship to the original owner and when they passed. So the web of rules can become quite complex, to be truthful. The solution is to get ahead of it. Long before you're 73, make sure you know when your RMDs will start and roughly how much they might be so that you're never caught off guard. Now, your plan custodian or advisor will typically notify you and even calculate the amount for you each year, but ultimately, it's your responsibility to ensure that you take it out on time. So, a smart move is to set up automatic RMD withdrawals with your account provider once you're eligible. You can often schedule it annually or even monthly to satisfy the requirement. So, taking these simple steps, automating the withdrawals and setting reminders, can save you from accidentally donating 25% of your hard earned money to the IRS in penalties. So, in short, don't snooze on the RMDs. The government wants its tax revenue, and they're not shy about penalizing procrastinators. On to mistake number 4, overconverting to a Roth IRA. Now, Roth IRAs are awesome. Who doesn't love tax free income in their retirement? So, doing Roth conversions can be one of the best tax moves that retirees can make. However, there's a big mistake lurking here, converting too much of your 401k to a Roth all at once. So, I see retirees get excited about the idea of never paying tax on that money again. So they convert huge chunks or even their entire 401k in one go. The result? A monster tax bill for that year and a cascade of unintended consequences. Remember, any amount that you convert from a traditional 401k to a Roth is taxable income in the year of the conversion. Large conversions can easily push you into higher tax brackets. For example, converting an extra 50,000 might take you from the 12% bracket up to the 22 or 24% bracket, meaning you're paying a lot more tax on those dollars than you would have it if it's spread out. Not only that, but as we discussed, higher income in a year can trigger things like Medicare, IRMAH surcharges, um, because Medicare Part B and D premiums jump up 2 years later because the conversion inflated your income. Now, it can also make more of your Social Security taxable that year and potentially affect other deductions or credits. Now, in some cases, I've seen people do a giant conversion thinking that they were being savvy, only to end up paying more in total taxes and penalties than they ever would have with required minimum distributions. So that defeats the whole purpose of a Roth conversion, which is supposed to save money in the long run, not cost you extra. So what's the smart approach? Well, strategic partial conversions over several years. So instead of trying to convert everything at once, fill up your lower tax brackets each year with a Roth conversion. For instance, look at your tax bracket. If you're comfortably in the 22% bracket, see how much room you have before hitting the 24% bracket and convert maybe that amount this year. Excuse me. The idea is to maximize conversions at a tax rate that you're okay with and stop before you jump to a higher bracket. So you're essentially spreading the tax burden out. Vanguard's guidance, for example, suggests converting just enough each year to stay in your current bracket. So think of it as pouring water into a bucket, but stopping just before it overflows. It's like easing your foot off the gas instead of slamming the brakes at the bottom of the hill. It's much smoother on your financial engine. Now, each situation is different, so it can help to run the numbers or use a planner who can model the tax outcomes. The key is don't get greedy with conversions. Be patient and methodical. A Roth conversion is a powerful tool, but if you overload it, well, the tax blowback can burn through the very savings that you're trying to protect. Finally, on to mistake number 5, forgetting to update your beneficiaries. Now, this last mistake can undermine all your careful planning with a simple oversight. Not updating the beneficiary designations on your 401k account. And it's a devastating mistake if it happens, because it usually only comes to light after you're dead, when it's too late, sadly, to fix it. Now, people often fill out a beneficiary form when they first enroll in a 401k. Maybe they be a spouse or a child or other relative, and then they just forget about it for decades. Life changes, families change, but that old form stays the same unless you update it. The crucial thing to understand is that the beneficiary form on file will override your will or any other estate document. So, in other words, whatever name is listed on that 401k beneficiary form, well, they'll legally get the money, period. If your will says, I leave everything to my daughter, but your 401k form still names your ex spouse from 15 years ago, well, guess what? The ex spouse will get those 401k funds, and your family can't do a single thing about it in most cases. Now, this isn't just an extreme hypothetical, it happens all the time. Marriages, divorces, deaths, births, estrangements, all these events can make your original beneficiary choice outdated. Yet, if you don't actively change the form, the plan administrator is bound to follow what's on that piece of paper or digital file. Fortunately, the solution is really simple. Regularly review and update your beneficiary designations. Make it a habit to check at least once a year and certainly after any major life event. Most 401k plans and IRAs allow you to update your beneficiaries online in a few minutes. So, there you have it. The 5 biggest mistakes that can literally cost you thousands on your 401k. Watch this video and make sure you don't make any of them. And I'll see you on the next one.